Welcome back to the Abundant Practice Podcast. I'm your host, Allison Pereira, founder of AbundancePracticeBuilding.com, and I am here with Sumi Raghavan. And we are going to be talking about making the move from academia into private practice. Sumi has lived experience of this and is going to share all of it with us. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. So, kind of talk us through you're in an academic position, you're working that life. What made you start a practice on the side?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I was in the very fortunate and rare position to get an offer for a tenure track position after grad school. And when I started, I was not even fully licensed yet.
Hmm.
Um, and I thought, I am going to be teaching about clinical work. I'm going to be teaching about diagnosis, assessment, treatment. And then later I would go on, when I moved into faculty of the graduate program, I was teaching clinical skills. And I thought two things. One is like, if I were like in music school, I would want my music teacher to actually play their instrument.
Uh-huh.
And if I think of it that way, like I want to be a professor that is able to talk about clinical work in the present rather than down the line be like 10 years ago when I saw patients
Hmm.
X, right? So I really wanted to like know what I was doing and teaching while I was doing it. The other part of it was very pragmatic because I was tuned into the fact that academia can be unstable, unreliable, that I wasn't sure that I would want to do it forever, so to
Hmm.
speak. I thought this is a backup that I could always jump into.
Hmm.
And if it gets to be too much, I can always stop.
Yes. I
And then
love that.
the last piece of it, to be honest, was money,
Uh-huh.
right? It's a source of income on the side.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. So, and I love that you're like, I need to know what I'm talking about when I'm teaching people things. And did you find that that changed how you taught clinical skills as you did
Yeah,
more and more therapy?
yes. It really did. And I really felt like when students asked me about practice, they liked, they, I think they felt a greater confidence in what I was sharing because it was based on present and past experience.
Hmm.
And I think that it gave me a lot of credibility as someone who ran my own practice, which many of them ultimately wanted to do.
Right.
Um, and so I think those two pieces were helpful for just like the rapport with students, the buy-in and their sort of confidence in my what I was delivering. I think I also felt like the things I was saying when I talked about building the therapeutic relationship, when I talked about not just different treatment modalities, but like understanding experiences that clients have, like grief and loss. I really felt like I was talking about it from a place of direct current content knowledge, not just rehashing things that I had learned in school.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so now you're working two jobs at this stage, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got your part-time practice, you've got full-time tenure track work, or not
Yeah.
tenure track, tenured work.
Yeah. In the beginning,
So,
tenure track. Yeah. Before I got tenured. Yeah.
yeah. So you've got a lot of work you're doing.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
like what becomes the point for you where you're like, I want to do more therapy and less
Yeah.
of this professor
Less
work?
of this. Yeah. So in the peak of COVID, um, uh,
Like
uh,
life-shattering from so many of us. I'm like, wait,
yeah,
what
right,
am I doing with my
right.
life?
Like what a what a privilege that my primary crisis in COVID was professional, right? Like,
Hmm.
um, I was pregnant with my second child. I
Hmm.
was we were cramped into our apartment in New York City with our toddler and working from home, teaching online, doing therapy online. And it became really, I mean, we were all experiencing a mass global trauma. We
Hmm.
were, and we were experiencing it differently, but it was profound, and the need for mental health services was profound.
Mm-hmm.
And the state of New York had like a volunteer hotline for if you were a mental health practitioner and you wanted to volunteer for like crisis. I reached out to them to volunteer. They ended up not calling on me, but I was like, I can like supervise volunteers if you want to. Like, I'm a New York State licensed psychologist. I started feeling like everyone was struggling, and I wanted to be able to serve more people clinically.
Mm-hmm.
I really love teaching, and I felt very conflicted about it, about the idea of leaving, particularly when I knew I'd be going up for tenure. But I
Mm-hmm.
think I started just feeling like I knew that people would really need support to process everything that we were experiencing on a global scale.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought if there was a time to pivot, maybe this terrible mass trauma presents a business opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that combined with the fact that, a little bit facilitated by COVID, there's been a crisis in higher education. Um, and the nature of my job was going to change, partially a result of financial challenges at my institution.
Mm-hmm.
And with tenure would come certain increased expectations of leadership, teaching. Um, things were changing structurally in a way where I was starting to wonder whether I could even maintain a small practice.
Mm.
And so it felt like a choice moment where I was like,
Right.
okay, either I'm going to go all in on academia and I'm going to take tenure, and which is what I've been working for, what I thought I was wanted. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do this, but this is going to be it. And I may need to step away from practice while I'm balancing these increased demands and go back to it later.
Right.
Or I walk out what is for sure a one-way door. And
Right.
I expand the practice. I gamble on the fact that people are going to want and need therapy in the coming years, and that perhaps a virtual life will lead more people to reach out in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I, I was balancing those two things. And then personally, I had my second child. I felt really overwhelmed. I was like, I'm doing too much.
Mm-hmm.
And I it's an interesting thing. I work a lot with burnout in my practice. I work with a lot of high achievers who have high demand professions and who become disillusioned because they work so hard and it turns out not to be what they thought it would be. And I
Mm-hmm.
think I felt a bit of that with
Yeah.
tenure. I was like, wow, I should be so excited. I should feel so proud of myself. I should feel so good. And I instead felt anxious. And I was like, I don't know if like this is what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that it was a one-way door felt really scary because you don't like walk away from tenure and then go back and get another tenure job. It's not
Right.
common, right? Um, but I felt like there was going to be a need for clinicians. There was going to be a need for clinicians who understood trauma, who could work cross-culturally, who, are available, like have availability. I could do that. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
this is the time.
Yeah. It's so interesting how everything just aligned. Like, I mean, in retrospect, very clearly in order to make
Yes.
this decision, but I'm sure
Right.
in the moment it was wrenching.
Yeah. Right. I mean, and it was such an uncertain time. If, you remember, like, what is going to happen with COVID? How long are we dealing with some level of this? Will anyone ever be back in the office 5 days a week? Are people going to want virtual therapy long term? These were all uncertainties.
Hmm.
Will I be able to scale up? I don't know. Like, yeah. But as I describe it retrospectively, it feels like a neat narrative.
Hmm.
But at the time, it felt like risky.
Yeah. So every academic listening right now with a small private practice is wondering, like, do you regret the choice? Was it clearly the right choice? How do you feel about it now?
No, I don't regret it, is
Hmm.
the short and easy answer. I miss teaching. I the first year that I wasn't teaching, I used to get that feeling in my body in late August, early September of like, back to, oh wait, like nothing has changed for me.
Mm-hmm.
Or like these moments where I really wanted to be in the classroom. Um, and I really do miss that.
Mm-hmm.
And the more time passes, the more I'm aware that that part of my life is in the past. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's certainly a sense of loss, but there's not a sense of regret.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, there's a grief when you love doing a thing and it's not available to you every day the way it was
Yeah.
before.
Right.
Certainly,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
grief there. And it sounds like you're in a less overwhelming position now than you once were.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it sounds too like I talk a lot about like making your priorities your actual priorities, which is not something most Americans do. We put so many things in front of the people and life that we care about. We always put work first as Americans. And I feel like private
Yeah.
practice gives you the opportunity to shift that.
Yeah. That has certainly been the case for me. But I have to check my privilege on this in that
Mhm,
when I made this transition, I'm married, my partner has a steady and reliable income. We sort of like gamed it out money-wise of like, all right, like how many clients do you need for this
mhm,
to work for us? And like it is a risk. I mean, this is like what you talk about all the time is like people don't fill up their practices. People don't always get steady streams of referral. There are great, great clinicians. It is a hustle to do
mhm.
this work individually in a different way.
Yeah.
Um, Once you, I think, get in the rhythm and get the hang of it, it can be so self-driven and directed and you can make space in the ways you want. I have
Mhm.
found,
Yeah.
I have found.
Yeah.
But I recognize that that's not how it shakes out for everyone, and it's hard to make that happen.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, you have to be committed to the marketing.
You have to
And
be.
typically, if you're committed to the marketing and you're doing it right, you will get
You will
full,
get something. Yeah.
but it's never as fast as any of us want. And sometimes, you get bad information and you're doing the wrong thing for a long time, and that can really wear on your confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that y'all had the conversation, like you did the math. You didn't just
Yeah,
kind
we
of
had to.
talk around it. And a
Yeah.
lot of people get in bad situations because they're like, yeah, I mean, I think I probably need about this many clients, but they don't actually do the math because therapists
It's
aren't really known to
scary.
be mathy
Yeah.
either. Like
Right. I
it's
mean,
simple,
I don't
but
I think we've had to. I mean, like we have two
Mhm,
kids and
mhm,
there was this sort of like, okay, well, what's your business plan? And I do think a lot of therapists don't think of themselves as business people or as
mhm.
people who run a business, but
Yeah.
we are. If you are a private, like solo practitioner running a private practice, if you're in a group, you're in a business.
Hmm.
You cannot say, well, I just have no business sense. Like that won't work for
Yeah.
you. This is not to be a successful solo practitioner. You cannot reject engaging with some aspects of business.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And I hear it like I'm not a marketer. Guess what? Now you are. You're
Yeah.
learning. You're
Yeah.
learning marketing, you're learning business. And it's not even like the advanced forms of business or marketing. We're really lucky in that respect that our
Yeah.
business model is not very complex.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm hearing for anybody in a similar position, you need to get really clear on the financial side of things
Yeah.
before making the leap full time.
Yeah.
You need to know what you're doing marketing wise so that you're able to continue to get clients in the door.
Yeah. I think you need to have a plan. I mean, nothing's foolproof, right?
Right.
Like I've been lucky to have a fairly steady stream of referrals. I don't have long periods where I'm like below my count, but it
Hmm.
certainly happens. It happens to everyone where sometimes a couple of people graduate and terminate treatment and you've got openings for longer than you thought you would.
Hmm.
And then you get like an abundance of inquiries. And so I do think you have to have a plan around marketing.
Mhm.
You cannot just like hope it works out.
Right, right. Yeah, I think if we treat our marketing plans like we treat our clients, like you don't just hop in there, like you think about them, you like review notes, you have a treatment plan, you know, you're going to provide much better care if you're doing these things, and you're going to get far more results in your practice if you bring
Yep.
that same intentionality.
I think also, you mentioned you have a lot of academics who listen to your practice, maybe where I was a few years ago. If you have a small practice, and really, I had a small practice, like it was 1 day a week. Sometimes the most clients I had was 4.
Hmm.
But the infrastructure for expansion was in place.
Hmm.
And what is that infrastructure? I had a website, I
Hmm.
had an office, I had a Psych Today profile. That's it.
Got it. Yeah.
And
And did you
I
find that your
expanded all of that.
connections, like your
Sorry, go
connections
ahead.
with the university, did they give you, like, were you getting referrals from people you knew there?
No,
Okay.
that wasn't that wasn't where I got clients.
Hmm. So that's important for people to know. Like, if right now you've got a small practice and people are sending you, like, from your current workplace, they're sending you people, you need to build other referral sources before you leave.
Yeah, that was true for me. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, because my role at the university was as a professor and a researcher, not a clinician.
Hmm.
And so I couldn't get referrals from I couldn't take students. There's a potential conflict of interest, right? Some
Hmm.
of my colleagues in my department had sent would send me referrals because they knew me as colleagues, but
Right.
that was not those were not my large those are not large sources of referrals for me.
Hmm. Yeah. And you can still nurture those relationships when you're
Yeah.
gone, and they'll
Oh, I
still
still
send you
do, yeah.
people.
And
Hmm.
I send people to them.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So another thing you did is like the way that you niched. Can we talk about that?
Yeah. Oh, can I also just acknowledge, like, I hate niching. Like, I hate
Uh-huh.
the concept of it.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you
Um,
hate about it? Because I know you're not the only one.
I don't think I am. I almost like I hate the word. Like when people say it, I'm like, ugh, it gives me the ick.
Uh-huh.
I hate it because I'm a generalist, and I think that a lot of clinicians are generalists and we can do a lot of
Hmm.
things. And so I think in some ways it does a disservice to the range of our skills and abilities to suggest that we do one thing.
Hmm.
I also know how affirming and meaningful it is for clients to see on a website or on a profile, this person specializes in like chronic medical illness or something. Like when they see that, they're
Right.
like, oh, that's me.
Hmm.
I know how meaningful that is for clients. Um, but I really try to walk a line. I also am I'm a little bit of a commitment phobe. I mean, part of what I loved about academia is I have to pick. I didn't have to pick. Like I could teach, I could do research, I could do practice, I could see a couple of clients. I did not have to like choose a lane entirely.
Hmm.
Um, and so with niching, I was sort of like, I don't want to say I do one thing. I
Hmm.
work with a lot of different like populations. I'm interested in a lot of different things, and I'm skilled in a lot of different areas.
Hmm.
Um, and so I really thought about how do you, how do you get clients though as a general marketer? What the marketing advice people tell you is you have to niche, particularly if you're using social media because the algorithms drive traffic based on specific content.
Hmm.
And if your content is all over the place, it confuses that.
Right.
Um, so I thought about these things. I thought about what I was doing and how I wanted to market myself. And so I tried to pick because I couldn't pick one thing. I just couldn't. I
Hmm.
was like, all right, what are the things that you're really passionate about, care about, and are like common threads through your training, through your academic work? One of those is culture and cross-cultural work. I've always worked with BIPOC populations. I'm interested in, and I'm also interested in the idea that everyone has a culture and looking at cultural history. You don't just have to be a visible minority to have a cultural history.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, okay, I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to make sure that that is on my website. I'm going to make sure that that is infused into how I even talk about other things on social media. Um, the other thing I thought about was the idea that I work with a lot of people in high demand professions who are struggling with burnout, struggling with overwhelm, anxiety, balancing all of the demands, both personally and professionally. And I can talk about that. And that's a solid niche for social media.
Mm-hmm.
The sort of social media universe is not saturated with people talking about burnout. It is saturated with people talking about parenting, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I work with a lot of parents. I am a parent. I'm interested in parenting. I don't talk about that on my website. I rarely talk about it on my social. It's not a niche that I advertise.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a choice that I made because I was just like, I can't just like say every single thing I do.
Right.
So, and there's a lot of people who say they do parenting. So let me say I do burnout because I do. Let me talk about culture because I think it's important for people to know that for a client who is seeking a culturally competent therapist, they want that flagged.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other common thread of what I work with is trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I have studied trauma. I did my master's and dissertation research in trauma. I work with trauma, and trauma is quite general, as you know, in that many, many clients have some exposure to or experience with trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to talk about that. And so I picked these three areas to highlight on my website and on my social.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I also have like sort of these couple of areas of work that are very, very niche,
Mm-hmm.
which is in the category of trauma. I work with journalists and media professionals who are trauma exposed through their work. So
Mm.
think about news people who are covering, you know, mass shootings,
Mm-hmm.
who are covering violent crime, who are covering um, really, really trauma facing things.
Mm-hmm.
And they are like, often some of the first people on the scene. They are talking to the survivors. They are bearing witness with their own eyes of the kind of direct aftermath. A lot of journalists that are covering like climate disaster, right? They're seeing and they're asked and tasked by the work that they do to maintain a level of distance and objectivity, and yet they're carrying those things with them.
Mm-hmm.
I received training from what was formerly the Dart Center for Journalism and Trauma. It's now the Global Center for Journalism and Trauma. And this is a very specific area of work that I call out on my website.
Mm-hmm.
But I receive referrals from that because it's so specific.
Right.
So
Right.
if someone were to ask me, how did you niche down without niching down? I would say I have this super niche down area, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trauma exposed journalists, something that I think a lot of people don't think about. And because it's so specific, and because I was trained by an organization that has trained many clinicians to do this, I get referrals specific to that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have these three very broad areas: trauma, culture, burnout.
Mm-hmm.
And I know in my heart that I work with people dealing with a lot of things that are not any of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't possibly call all of that out.
Right.
So I picked one super specific thing and three general things, and I try to highlight that I do all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
And it's
that
working
has
well
been a
for
help.
you.
It's working for me.
Yeah.
It's working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that you have finessed it in such a way because that is such a hyper specific niche that like you will always get referrals for that.
Yes.
Um,
I know I will, but I also know that doesn't fill a practice because of
mhm,
how hyper specific it is.
mhm. Yeah. And burnout, it's interesting because we are, like you were talking about how it's not saturated. I think it also depends on your algorithm because I get more things about burnout in my feed than parenting at this point.
Right. Right.
And I think
Interesting. You're
it's,
right. It is the algo. Yeah.
yeah. And like so many people are burned out, right? I mean, like we're in a culture that almost demands burnout just for like
Absolutely.
basic
Yes.
functioning.
That's right.
So,
Burnout is by design in a culture that equates worth with work.
mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
particularly for many, sort of high achieving folks, I mean, it is by design. It's almost
Mm-hmm.
inevitable.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I like the way you wrangled the niche idea into
Yeah.
something that works for you. It's palatable for you. It's not something you
Yeah.
had to like that felt unaligned that you had to force.
Yeah, I think that it would have been hard for me to choose one thing.
Hmm.
It and even still I think about like what if I want to like burnout is what I sort of foreground on social media, but it's not all what I do. Like what if I want to change that? And I've just sort of tried to settle in a space of like what I really want is for people to know that I can do lots and lots of things.
Hmm.
And
Yeah. And it sounds like you're getting people outside of your stated niches
yeah,
because, and that's
yeah.
one of the powers of a niche too, is it makes you look like an expert in something. So it makes you look more competent in general. So,
That's the hope, right? Yeah.
mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the fear is people worry that you can only do that. But the
Hmm.
hope is that people see that expertise speaks to high levels of competence across the board.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I see more in people when they niche. It's
Yeah.
like, I mean, I've kept like probably no more than 60% of my caseload on average has been my niche. Because I also
Yeah.
don't want to just see one presenting concern all day long.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for talking with us, Sumi. I hope
Thank
that
you.
some other academics out there who are like juggling both have some
Yeah.
clarity.
Yeah. I hope it's helpful. I know how hard that decision is. And I feel grateful that I had that to fall back on. I do think that it's a valuable skill, but I know it's
Mhm.
a really hard decision.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Have a
Thank
great day.
you. This was such a great chat. Be
Yay,
well.
you too.